Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ever Adaptive Podcast. I'm your host, Becky Flowers, along with my co host here, Sarah Budson.
What's up, guys?
Good morning. All right, so we're going to dive right in today. We are doing a subject that we didn't know we were going to do. Sarah actually recommended it, and I work with Raina from Bulletproof Minds this morning. So we have a WhatsApp chat, and I had reached out to her this morning on the same subject. So
Relevant. So I was like, yeah, let's run it.
let's do it. So we're going to talk about self-sabotage. And then we also want to touch on self-belief, confidence, where that comes from, because I think that's a big thing for a lot of people, and it really can be really simplified down.
Absolutely, I agree. Like we kind of discussed, like self-sabotage, it's like a habit that if you have to be willing to want to break it, right?
Mhm.
But there's just like those people that it's like in everything that they do, and this is so relatable to anything, romantic relationships, friendships, job opportunities, business opportunities, anything within the fitness industry, right? Things can be going so good and we're constantly like questioning like, oh, like when is something going to go bad, or like waiting for a shoe to drop, or just like this, that it can't be this way because like something bad always happens, right? And it's just like you're kind of limiting yourself in that way when you're constantly, well, you're robbing yourself of your own happiness in your current, because if you're sitting there worrying about all of these things that could not happen, might not happen, probably won't happen, you're kind of like setting yourself up for failure
Yeah.
when you're sitting there kind of just dwelling and worrying and putting the stress on yourself that is not necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that self-sabotage, at least for me, it's a pattern. So I just realized my pattern last night. It's like, okay, that's interesting. So it can stem from maybe childhood or something else, but you can see that pattern of what you do when things start to go, like for me, when I feel really safe and secure, that's when I'll be like, "Oh, I have to throw something in there and wreck that up," because I think chaos is my constant. Um, so I think seeing those patterns is the first thing to do to fix it.
I would agree. And I mean, this is something that I used to struggle with, right? But I think I got better when I really just gave up that like trying to control things, and like also realizing that this is an additional stressor that I don't need to have.
Yeah.
It's like regardless, the universe is going to play out however it's going to play out, no matter what situation this is applicable to, right? I can't control that. Like, let it be, let it flow, and we'll cross that bridge when it comes, however it looks. Like giving up that need for control, or just thinking that like maybe things are too good or whatever the case may be, however, what way it looks, it's like if you just like let it be and let it play out, things are going to play out exactly as they're supposed to. And so just enjoy the process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually remember, because this was something that you said that you had struggled with up until probably this
Couple months
past fall.
ago. Yeah, a couple
Yeah.
months ago.
I remember the conversation of you being like, I just let it go. And you could see there was a visible change from when you were worried about everything and trying to control it to you decided to let it go, and life has just flown from there.
It was a huge shift. And like that's when I was like, okay, maybe prep is on the table again, right? Because like
Mhm.
mentally, I feel great. Like I'm in a good spot again where I'm not stressing out about every little thing, and I'm not setting myself up for failure in all of these different areas. It's like, hey, whatever's thrown my way, let's do it. And I think, I mean, that truly boils down to where my faith is. Because I mean, you remember when I was just like, dude, like I just surrender it all. Like
Hmm.
I can't I can't keep trying to grip so tight to what isn't supposed to happen, you know?
Yeah.
And as soon as I did that, it was all of these doors closed and one very clear door opened. And when you allow yourself to just be guided and you just listen to that and just have faith and trust in that, it gives you that belief that things are going to work out, right? What have we been saying for the last year? What is for you isn't going to miss you. What is for
Hmm.
you will not miss you. And actually taking that into account and applying it has been such a game changer.
Do you remember what you had to do leading up to that point?
I think run into those doors
So it was just
over
basically like
and
trial
over
and
again.
error.
I mean, you remember it's like the absolute shitstorm that was thrown at me, and I was just trying to keep my head above water. And yeah, I mean, it was things that I couldn't control at that, there was a lot of life factors that were being thrown my way that were out of my control. But I think additionally on top of it, I was trying to control other things to maybe put in place of like being able to actually control something, like having something that I can grasp that I could control.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good.
And the friction from that, this is so cryptic, I'm sorry. Like,
No, no,
but
this
the
is good.
friction of trying to hold on to something and it still wasn't working out and it just kept like hitting my head against the wall. I think that's where I was just like, dude, I'm tired. Like, I'm tired, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, you literally were you it was you the conversation with you where I was just like, I just gotta surrender. Like I gotta just like give it up and let it be and let the dust settle and like absorb what has happened over the last X amount of months and just ride the wave of whatever is going to happen next. Because no matter what, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, like it's gonna happen. And nothing is going to happen to me that I can't handle. So I think knowing that and having faith in that and that self-belief in that has been such a game changer for me.
I love that. I loved how you said that you had things that were out of your control. So you would throw other things in there that you could control, that you could grip tightly to, because we all do that. We're all
Right.
going to
It's
find
like a
ourselves.
it's like a fail safe kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all that did was hurt things more.
It does. And it makes you go crazy.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
go
I was
in.
in a terrible state of mind.
You were, and that's why I say it's so cool to see that switch, because it literally is night and day, and it was just that conversation. But going back to that, because I feel like I'm still in it, so I don't really have much to give right now besides y'all, I get it. We all got our demons, but
Yeah.
you have continually, like, stayed in that state of mind of not going back to gripping so tight. So, have you noticed anything that has helped not go back?
Realizing that it is better this way. Like realizing that it feels so much better this way instead of just hitting my head against the wall time after time, hitting brick wall after brick wall where it really was just like a switch. And I was just like, oh, like everything really is going to work out, whether I'm stressed about it or not, like there's going to be some mud that you have to go through, fight through it, get to the other side. And then looking back, you're like, that was all necessary for me to get exactly where I am.
Very
I
true.
think that is what keeps me on the other side of it instead of going back and slipping into old habits of waiting for something to go wrong or just setting myself up for failure. Because, like I said, you're robbing yourself of your own happiness at the time.
Mhm.
You're limiting your potential. this could be, apply this to business, right? If you don't believe that you can do something, you're never going to do it, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to have to be a little bit delusional of, a little bit of a fake it till you make it kind of thing where, and we discuss this, right? It's these habits of, how did you word it? You gain the confidence by executing, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where,
Yeah, by doing.
right. So you have this tangible, stackable proof of things that you have accomplished, signing that contract with yourself, right? This goes back to like one of our very first episodes, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Signing that contract with yourself. If you're going to say something, if you're going to do something, if you say you're going to do something, do it. Then over time, these little boxes that you can check, you can look back and be like, oh, I really did make that happen, And that's going to give you the confidence to continue that and keep that momentum going of showing up, whatever you have to face. And I think that that is a good way to conquer that self-sabotage of you have to have the belief. Otherwise, it won't be even in your eyesight, let
Yeah.
alone let alone be able to actually be done.
I agree. I think I think self-sabotage can go into so many different things
Mhm.
that there are going to be different things to handle every single one of them. Um, but like for fitness and business, when you are self-sabotaging, realizing what you're doing and making that conscious decision not to anymore is going to
Right.
propel you ahead.
Yeah, there's a self-awareness piece to it for sure,
Yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
like you have to make that recognition, like you just did last night, right? Where you're just like, oh, I'm just
This is a
making this
pattern.
realization of this is a pattern that I've been, doing over and over again. Okay, now what are you going to do moving forward, Becky?
So I have one reach out to my therapist. So get a therapist. Um,
We can't say that enough.
I know. That's like every episode. Get it. Get some help.
Just get a
Um,
therapist. They fix everything.
they do. No, and that's the cool thing is like now I get to dive into one where that comes from, but two, I get to call myself out in it when it comes up because that pattern is going to come up again. I am going to get into a spot where I feel really, really good, and I'm going to feel really good in my programming and think that I'm killing it and want to go and grab the jar of almond butter and overeat an almond butter. Um, I'm going to stop posting on social when business starts rolling. Like there are so many things that I do. I'm going to pick fights with people that I love because I feel really safe and secure in that relationship and that scares me. Like
We don't have to call yourself out on everything. I'm more so getting at having that self-awareness piece of realizing and recognizing, but then creating a game plan moving forward and holding yourself accountable to it, right?
yes. So
So
now
that when these things do come up, it's something that you can quickly recognize because you have made that realization
mhm.
and then hold yourself accountable to these different actionable things that you're going to do so that you don't fall back into those patterns.
I think writing it down too, if this is something that you've struggled with for a long time, having that tangibly written down so you can see it could
Mhm.
help too.
Yeah, and I do that with like certain things that I want to hold myself to. Like I will, if there's a certain date that I want to get something done by, I throw it on a sticky note and I put it on my fridge because I'm pretty much live in my kitchen.
Eat all day.
Eat all day, meal prep all day. My schedule's in my kitchen, like everything. But just having it visually there, just we don't realize how much visual reminders help, you know,
Yeah.
no matter well, this could go literally any way. Like just like you had said in our last episode where you're like, oh, I think I need to write that down in a sticky note to remind myself, what is the purpose of this phase that I'm in within bodybuilding?
Yeah.
Those visual reminders of anything They help so much. I look at that post-it note is still in my bathroom that says what is for you will not pass you. You know,
You look at that
I
every single day.
multiple times a day. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
like, I got keep going freaking tattooed on my arm right here so that I can look at it every single day, every single moment that I'm feeling like I might not be able to do something, anything, like just stupid little reminders like that. You don't have to obviously get something tattooed on you, but
But if you want
but
to,
it helps.
it's not going anywhere.
Right. But those visual reminders to help hold yourself accountable. I
I
think that
love
those are
that.
very, very important. And I think they're severely underestimated.
I agree. I think even like you're seeing that sticky note all the time, but you're not thinking about it all the time. Like when you go into your bathroom, you're not thinking about it every time you're in there. I think just having it in front of your face, subconsciously, you're going to start just
Yep.
remembering it.
Yep.
Let's jump over to self-belief, confidence, how we think the best way to gain that is.
Yeah. And I kind of like segued a little bit into that, but holding yourself accountable to create progress, checking those boxes daily, like stacking your bricks, right?
Mm-hmm.
One by one. And eventually you built a house, right? It's holding yourself to those things that you say you're going to do, whether you think you're going to be able to do them or not, you know?
Yeah,
And guess what? If you don't and you fail at them, that's a lesson learned. You gained something from that. It wasn't a waste of time. There's a lesson in everything. We've beat this one into the ground too.
yeah, yeah, we
It,
have,
it's,
but it's
but,
good.
but
Oh, sorry. Just it's good. It's a good reminder that
yeah. And like I said, even sometimes if that means you have to be a little bit delusional to believe that you're going to be able to do something, jump, do it anyway, try anyway. You are never going to know if you don't try and apply yourself and apply everything that you've learned. It's no, like I said, you're limiting your potential if you don't even think that you can pull something off. And you're never, ever going to get there if you stay in that frame of mind.
exactly. And how much closer are you going to be, even if you fail at the end goal that you had? How much closer are you to that end goal than you are today by
You
just
know
taking
what
those
not to do.
minuscule steps? Exactly. But you also are learning skills of what to do. Like you could have just been like one thing off and you just correct that and you've figured everything else out. Um, I think this also goes into like just the little daily things that we do, like calling myself out again, but getting my steps in. Like I have written that down so many days. My family just had the flu this past week, so I'm like ramping it back up.
I
But I've
think
had,
everyone's been saying,
dude, it is crazy. But I write that down on my power list every day, and there's been I hit it Friday, but I didn't hit it yesterday. So it's just keep going. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, it's the minuscule things that you do, like meal prepping. If you say you're gonna meal prep, meal prep. If you say you're gonna hit your 10,000 steps, hit your 10,000 steps, hit your water. These seem like they're basic things, but they are things that we tell ourselves that we are doing every single day. And we're proving to ourselves that we can't keep that promise every single day. So it doesn't have to be like this huge goal that you have. It's just the minuscule things that are going to get you to a huge goal.
yeah. And it's those, like you said, those baby steps that matter, and if it's something that seems out of reach, set a smaller goal, these
Yeah.
micro goals that you can build up to that bigger goal. It's like if you're only generally hitting 5,000 steps a day, shoot for eight first,
Hmm. Yeah.
hit that. Once that becomes normal, guess what? Then 10 isn't going to feel like shit.
And that's for every goal that you have. You can always ramp it up. Just
Mhm.
because someone else too is like ramped up, you don't know where they are and you don't know where they started and what they had to go through to get there. So think just throwing that one in there, off topic, but stop comparing yourself to everybody.
I think, oh no, I think that that's a really good self-sabotage point,
That is true.
because how many people compare themselves to other people? I have so many friends that are mostly mothers, mostly mothers that are comparing themselves to other mothers that are like, it looks like she has it all together. Well, guess what? I guarantee she fucking doesn't. Okay.
Hmm.
So, and gosh, this just like segues into like a lot of different episodes that we just did recently with like, you still have to show up. You still have to show up as your best self. So take the time to get in your 10K steps so that you can show up and be the best you can be for your kids. Be a good
Exactly.
example for your kids. Or you can sit there and say, well, she's just a better mom than me and she's just doing so much better than me. And you're self-sabotaging yourself. Because guess what? At that point, yeah, she is.
Or just saying, she has it so much easier than I do. I've heard
Hmm.
that all the time. Oh, I wish I could do that, but I work full time and my husband works full time and blah, 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 blah. I get it. But at the end of the day, what can you do? So you
Hmm.
can't get in 10,000 steps. Can you get in eight? Just
Right.
work your
Create
way
those
up.
smaller goals and yep, work your way up. And just better yourself in some way because sitting there and saying that you're never going to be able to do that, no, you're not. If you sit in that frame of mind, you
Yeah.
know, do something. You can't just stay there. You can't just stay there. You're going to rot.
I literally went on a rant on my stories last week about this because I feel like the general population does this for everything. They will just say, "Oh, I can't,"
Mhm.
and they won't do anything. So if you are one of these people that maybe you've done that in the past and you've decided, "Okay, I'm going to start building my confidence up. I'm going to stop self-sabotaging myself and just do these little things." You are going to be so much farther ahead than everyone else. And I think that's going to pay off tenfold in the future.
And you're going to feel better.
You are. You're going to show up better, you're going to feel better. You're going to become a different person and you probably won't even know who you are in a couple of years and that's going to be pretty cool as fuck.
Yeah, it's so cool to look back and recognize your growth and your progress.
Mhm.
I do that a lot where, certain situations come up and I handle it a certain way. And I'm like, wow, me a year ago would not have been able to handle that way. You
I
know,
love that. I
it's
never do
so,
that. I need to do that.
you should. Oh my God, it's such a cool, like we know I don't credit myself for a lot. I don't pat myself on the back for a lot, but like when it comes to those mental gaps and like bridges and growth when it comes to just like intellect and like emotional intelligence and like self-awareness and stuff like that and stress, especially stress has been a huge thing
Mhm.
where like look at all of the things that were thrown at me in the fall where me a year and a half ago I would have been buried buried if all of that was thrown at me. I would have been so stressed out, such an emotional wreck, where now I'm looking back, I'm like, I handled myself pretty well during all of that. Like,
Yeah.
I did a pretty decent job. And I know that I wouldn't have been able to do that good of a job last year, 2 years ago, whatever, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I think
Whenever
that that is important is to recognize internal growth when it comes to things like that because when you take that time to reflect on your internal emotional growth, then it's like, well, guess what? I'm still not tapped out. I'm still not at my, max capacity when it comes to that. So like, how much further along am I going to be a year from now too,
yeah. What more can you do?
Right. So I think that that's a really important thing to do as well when it comes to self-belief.
I love that. All right. Well, you got anything else on that one?
I think I said everything I needed to say.
I did too. I think that was good. Um, I guess we'll do a part two once I figure out my end of the
Yes.
deal and fix my brain.
We're constantly growing. And that's the thing too, is recognizing that we are constantly growing. There are more improvements that we can all make. And it starts with that self-awareness piece of being able to call yourself out, being able to recognize those patterns, and being able to break that habit of when you fall into them and create those actionable things moving forward to handle it differently in some way.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us today, guys. We hope that you got some golden nuggets from this. And we will talk to you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.